With the death of Mario recently, I feel like it's time for a change of pace. Instead of mourning the loss of our beloved plumber, let's talk about how he can pop caps. That's right, Mario had a gun before. It's more of an arm cannon, but for the sake of the title of the video, we're gonna call this weapon right here a gun. Anyway, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle on the Nintendo Switch is a tactical game released in 2017 by Ubisoft, a crossover between Mario and Rayman's Raving Rabbids. I can't believe this is a real crossover to this day. But we can't get a proper Mario and Sonic crossover. That isn't a fucking minigame collection. If there's one thing that doesn't piss me off more, it's minions, okay? And the Rabbids are legitimately the video game equivalent of them. And they are with Mario. Oh god, oh fuck. Jokes aside, this game is surprisingly pretty good. It's not my favorite Mario game, but it's definitely one of my favorite games on the Switch. It also helped me realize I really like tactical games, for the most part. Accompanied with a damn good soundtrack and a solid world design, this is definitely a game to shed some light on. So let's talk about Mario and his furry pals. Let's review 2017's Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. I feel as if this game is pretty underrated. Seriously, have you met anyone within the past 2 years talking about this game? No, you haven't. And if you said you did, you're lying to yourself. Anyways, why don't we kick things off with the story? Considering this is a Mario game, the story isn't all that. I say this even though the last Mario game I reviewed was fucking Super Paper Mario, but I digress. Anyway, it all starts in a young woman's room, where this prodigy has just created a headset capable of merging things together, with a little robot inside of it called Beepo. This headset is called the Super Merge. Talk about cliche. You may have noticed, but this girl is a die-hard Mario fan, and I'm talking about owning all the merchandise and movies. She loved Mario so much. Mario is love, they say. Mario is life. Okay, I'm sorry. The mistake made here, however, wasn't my terrible Shrek joke. It was the fact that this chick left her room with the headset still on, because the fucking Rabbids randomly show up in their time-traveling washing machine from Raving Rabbids Travel in Time. They wreak havoc in her room until one of the Rabbids put on the Super Merge headset and start combining other Rabbids with Mario merchandise and even shooting the time machine. With all of the Rabbids in the time machine being fused in with Mario-related things, they literally get transported to Mario's world. And this is exactly what causes the main catastrophe in the Mushroom Kingdom. Certainly one way to get into Super Nintendo World, huh? The actual problem here is the vacuum created by the Super Merge that shows up in Mario's world, sucking everyone and everything into it, into a whole completely new world, a different Mushroom Kingdom. The Rabbid initially using the Super Merge headset was fused with the headset itself and merges things on its own whenever it feels threatened. He's called Spawny later in the game. Him being fused with the Super Merge itself has caused the little robot AI Beepo to become physical, and in the process of this, Mario saves it, and they begin to negotiate what to do next, while the Rabbid Peach and Rabbid Luigi follow behind. So the plot of this game is on the simpler side. The Rabbids tamper with shit they're too dumb to control, leading to the corruption of an entirely separate world, and it's up to Mario and his crew and their Rabbid companions to undo all the corruption. As the game goes on, the plot continues to thicken as we learn more about the ongoing threat, and why it's even more crucial to retrieve Spawny.
What the hell?
Oh shit!
The gameplay. So as I mentioned in the beginning, this game is not your typical Mario game or Rabbids game in the slightest. It's a tactical game where you move around swiftly, trying to take out all the enemies on the field, defeat a certain amount of enemies, reach a specific area on the map, and escort Toad and Toadette. Later on in the game, you escort Spawny. So 4 types of missions you come across in the game. Most common obviously being to defeat all the enemies in the field. Your movement range is measured in cells. Same with the range on your weapons and area of effect attacks. Speaking of weapons, you can buy stronger ones from the battle headquarters on Peach's Castle. You can unlock stronger weapons as you progress through the game, or collect 8 red coins from the red rings found in the worlds. These spawn chests that contain new weaponry for you to purchase. All weapons have critical chances except for the first weapon on each character. Criticals do more damage obviously, as well as a super effect. We aren't even done being close to talking about the weapons. Sit your ass down. The super effects created by critical hits consist of Honey, which restricts movement, Bounce, which does what the name implies, sends any motherfucker flying away. Push does the exact same thing, the effects just look different. Ink restricts attacks. Ice restricts techniques, which I will get into later. Shut the hell up. Burn is probably the worst super effect because it just makes you or your enemy run like hell, and making contact with others while it's happening gives them the status effect too, so it can affect your party even if you shot the attack. The Stone status effect completely immobilizes the person afflicted, and the last status effect is Vamp. When somebody is inflicted with Vamp, any damage done to them is given to the person who inflicted said damage, as health. Half of it anyway. Whew, alright. Now for the cast of characters on the journey. They're all very different from one another, and you'll mostly have to play them all differently. The first character in the cast is Mario. No fucking brainer. Mario's primary is jumping on enemies. How do you do that, you ask? Well, a little something you can do in this game is an option called team jumping. You can run up to another party member and jump off of them to cover even more ground. Mario can jump off an enemy after this. Primary weapon is the blaster, the gun. His neutral special in this game isn't a fireball, it's an AK-47! Jokes aside, the blaster is the mid-range weapon. That's basically all there is to it. His secondary weapon, however, is the hammer. What kind of turn-based combat Mario game doesn't give him a hammer though? Finally, I can get into the techniques. The techniques are abilities that each character can do to benefit their own abilities, and sometimes can benefit other party members in their range. The Mario cast have reaction shots that trigger when an enemy moves within their line of sight. It's basically an extra attack all on its own. Mario's secondary technique is M-Power. It basically powers up himself and any other party member in the vicinity. A good technique to use in the beginning of a fight to really raise health. The next character down the list is Rabbids Peach. Before I really talk about her, I need to establish that the Mario crew's quirks mostly deal with team jumps, while the Rabbids quirks mostly deal with their dash properties. And unlike the Mario characters, they don't have reaction shots. They all have shields with their own different properties. Rabbids Peach's primary weapon is also the blast, but her secondary weapon is the Sentry, basically a bomb with wheels, when you think about it. You can also throw it out and it'll track whoever you targeted. Kinda seems overpowered, but secondary weapons have a one-turn cooldown. Rabbids Peach's dash ability is the Stylish Dash. She can hit up to 4 enemies while on the move when dashing. Her primary technique is the shield that is mostly all-purpose. It can block the majority of weapon damage and dash damage from enemies. Her secondary technique is the heal. Yep, Rabbids Peach is the dedicated healer. Rabbid Luigi is next in line, and he is a goddamn champion. Not because he rocks the Luigi cap, but it's because he dishes out the highest critical chance in the game. Seriously, later on his crit chance on his Borb weapon gets huge! Anyway, yes, his primary weapon is the Borb, a yo-yo-like blaster that has severely high crit damage, even at the beginning of the game. His secondary is quite literally a rocket launcher. It's amazing, it even hits enemies when they're behind cover due to AoE. Rabbid Luigi's dash is the Vamp Dash. He inflicts enemies with the Vamp status effect when dashing into them. His primary technique is a shield, which allows him to be immune to enemy critical effects. It also reduces damage from all attacks, but it's still a weaker shield all around. His secondary technique is Weaken. It does what the name implies. Weaken every enemy's attack power and range. Luigi, the man, the myth, the legend. It's the 4th playable character, and oh my fucking god, I love him. His main weapon is the Precision, which is a sniper. It has long range and does more damage in general than the blasters. Luigi is a glass cannon, so it's always a good idea to keep him far away from enemies. His secondary weapon is also a Sentry, which goes well with his long-range attitude. Why else is Luigi glass cannon, you definitely did not ask? Well, my lovable viewer and other asshole, Luigi has the most movement in the entire game, thanks to his double team jump technique. That's right, Luigi can jump from one party member to the other for maximum movement. Luigi's primary technique is also a reaction shot, dubbed Steely Stare, but his secondary technique, which allows him for even more movement, Itchy Feet, which gives him and anyone else in the range more cells to move. Now, before I go over the last 4 party members, I need to talk about the restrictions within setting up a team. The first one is that you must have Mario on the team. You aren't allowed to switch him out specifically, which honestly sucks ass. Luckily, Mario is kind of on the overpowered side, but in some cases, Mario can be considered the weakest link in the team, so it'd be nice to swap him out. Because of this, you can't have a team of Rabbids, and you're also not allowed to have a team of Mario characters either, because they make sure that you at least have one Rabbid on the team. This is Mario plus Rabbids after all. In the multiplayer modes, there is no restrictions, which makes sense, and the restrictions in single player are for balancing purposes, I believe. If not, fuck them. Rabbid Mario is probably the most unique character in the game in terms of strategizing with him on the team. You're supposed to make sure he's as close to his foes as possible, his primary weapon being the boom shot. which is literally a cartoony shotgun. Instead of aiming at one target like a normal firearm, in this game, it's basically an area of effect attack, as the shot can hit up to multiple enemies at once. So Rabbids Mario gets a lot of his shtick from being up close and hitting multiple enemies at once with his AoE, leading to his secondary and his dash quirk, the hammer and the boom dash. I already went over the hammer, but his boom dash allows him to hit multiple enemies at once with a single dash. He can also hit multiple people at once, as Rabbids do. You've got to be careful playing too recklessly, because you can also put your party in danger with all that AoE. His shield is more catered towards body blocking related attacks such as enemy dashes, because he's usually close to them. His secondary technique? Magnet Dance pulls in enemies close, and due to his insane damage and solid movement, Rabbids Mario rivals Luigi in terms of power. Peach is the tank, damsel in distress, more like defender in a dress, as what the game says. It feels weird saying that out loud, but the devs at Ubisoft thought it'd be funny to make the most delicate character the goddamn tank. She has absurd amount of health, and a healing team jump, so that when she lands after performing a team jump, she can heal herself and any party member within that small area. No cooldown. She has to get it decently close, however, because her primary weapon is also the boom shot. But because her secondary weapon, she can be a little more safe from enemies, because it's the grenade duck. Basically, a grenade in the shape of a duck. I actually don't have much to say on it, other than that it has decent AoE, I guess. She has a reaction shot called Royal Gaze, but because she uses the boom shot, you have to make sure that she doesn't accidentally shoot another party member when an enemy moves. Peach's secondary technique goes well with her tankiness, protection, and not the kind you put on before intercourse either. She can take some damage for her teammates by reducing the damage they take from attacks, and having her leech some of that damage off. It's not that good of a technique, but it fits. Rabbid Yoshi is that one Rabbid. You know, the special one. The mentally challenged one. Despite him actually being
kinda retarded,
he's hella good in his own right. With his Rumble Bang, the machine gun-like weapon, it has high maximum attack power and low minimum attack power. So it's basically a 50-50 chance if you can kill an enemy with it or not. It also has the lowest crit in the game because the crit damage is so damn high. Rabbid Yoshi's secondary weapon is also the grenade duck, which I guess suits his chaotic nature. He can also dash attack up to 5 enemies on the move, which is honestly unnecessary, but hey, I'm not complaining. His shield negates all damage entirely, but only for 2 hits, and after that, it breaks. His secondary technique is practically the opposite of Rabbids Mario, as it scares enemies away. The scary Rabbid. And finally, we are at Yoshi. This is supposed to be a review, but it feels more like a fucking character guide. Holy shit. Anyway, you get Yoshi very late in the game, sadly, because he's really fun. His weapons are the Rumble Bang and the Rocket, so you can fight from pretty far away, pretty easily. Yoshi also has his mighty ground pound. After performing a team jump, he slams his ass on that solder, doing damage to everyone and everything in the vicinity. His reaction shot is labeled Egg Beater, and his secondary technique is probably why you get him so late. Super Chance. Yoshi is allowed to give himself and any party member in the vicinity a surefire critical hit. Combine that with M power and what do you get? Maximum damage possible. Now that I think about it, Yoshi is basically similar to Mario in terms of what he has to offer. A team jump ability that deals damage, and a secondary technique that's purpose is to power everyone up in terms of damage. Now finally, with all the characters and weapons and abilities out of the way, I should probably actually talk about the combat. Like, holy shit. The combat is supposed to be shoot, flank, find cover, and repeat. Except I don't do that half the time. I try to speedrun my battles and usually go for more reckless tactics. Considering this is probably my 5th time playing through the game, I know everything, and there's no reason for me to play like a bitch. How do you go about dealing with enemies varies, as some have shields, which act as their own cover, and some only have big-ass bricks on their back, and they advance at you every time you hit them, so no matter whose turn it is. I really don't like Smashers, okay? They're the fucking worst. Allow me to interject a little bitch fit with talking about the skill tree briefly. The skill tree is unlocked after defeating the first mid-boss, and allows you to upgrade each party member with power orbs that you get after each chapter or through chests. They are also how you unlock secondary weapons and techniques and upgrades for movement and whatnot. I kinda wanna dive into the bosses and the mid-bosses a little bit, as they are completely different than their normal battles. The actual boss fights, not the mid-bosses. The mid-bosses are usually just a special enemy you fight halfway through one of the worlds. They have a lot of health and that's it, and their gimmick is usually another gimmick shared with another enemy or another party member. The bosses, however, oh man, they're a doozy. The first boss is the Rabbid Kong, in which you have to make him lose his banana supply before you're really able to attack him. The Icicle Golem is the boss of World 2. He has a refrigerator door as a shield, and after the first 2 phases of socking him, he just becomes sick of our shit and becomes one with the snow. My personal favorite boss in the game is definitely the Phantom. Not only because his boss theme is the best in the game, and it's what's playing right now, but because he brings in the best possible voice acting seen in a Mario game. I'll go over that later though. He always dodges attacks when under the spotlight, so you have to take those out first before you can attack them. And spoiler alert! The last boss is Bowser, obviously, but there's something different about him. Almost as if he was being controlled by something. More on that later as well.
No.
Oh.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
The worlds! And there is only 4 of them. While traveling in this game, you control Beepo, as Mario and Co follow. Beepo, by the way, swears almost as much as I do, and it's censored, but it's still kind of funny. I wasn't shitting you. There's only 4 worlds in this game, each having 8 to 9 chapters and a secret chapter. The number of battles vary in each chapter too. It's a very long game despite the short amount of worlds, but the game makes up for it in a diversity within the locations. World 1 is called Ancient Gardens. You start out in green fields and waterfalls, and then all the way to a deep forest, in which you wound up traveling to a Jenga tower in the sunset. The same tower you see at the very beginning, mind you. This is also where you meet Bowser Jr. He is established that he is the main threat thus far, keeping Spawny for himself and using his power for malicious acts. World 2 is Sherbert Desert. It is a desert that has been merged with the elements of a frozen tundra. So it's a snow world and a desert world put into one! Isn't that just so cool? Damn, did that pun send chills down your spine? Am I really being that cold to my audience right now?
Shut the fuck up!
Yikes, okay, I'm sorry. Jokes aside, this world has a lot to offer. And the transition of sand to snow honestly seems pretty natural in my opinion. The party also learns here that the void that opened up by the super merge gets bigger every time you free a rabbit from its influence. So each and every time you defeat an enemy, it only makes this goddamn thing more powerful. The void is also called the Mega Bug, by the way. One more thing I have to talk about here is this rabbit statue. That initially looks like he's taking a piss, but right when you enter the battle in front of it, it is revealed that he spilled water. Funny pee jokes! Spooky Trails is the ghost world, you know? Like every Mario game has got to have some kind of spooky world, especially if Luigi's involved. This isn't just some ghost house type shit, however. You go from an abandoned city, to a castle, to a forest, to a swamp, then a theater where you meet the boss. The best boss ever created in the history of gaming. The difficulty tries to ramp up a bit here too, with more enemy types like Peekaboos and Valkyries, but because I'm just so fucking good at video games, it's nothing I can't handle. But yes, the Phantom, created by Spawny, the one character in the game that actually speaks. And what does he do? Roast the ever-living shit out of Mario. It's insane! Check this shit out!
With great joy in my heart, each time I watch Mario Kart, you're first and doing so well, but here come the spiny shell.
But the Phantom's mistake is that when you mess with Mario, you're messing with the wrong guy. So he got his ass kicked. The Lava Pit is the 4th and final world in the game. It's actually more than just your stereotypical final Mario level. So sure, you're at Bowser Jr.'s barracks first, but then you explore an underground factory with mines and everything. Then you actually reach Bowser's castle. He was on vacation this whole time, and why Bowser Jr. was fucking up with the party's whole shebang this whole time. Before I go deep into this, I just want to point out that yes, there is a Wario and Waluigi Rabbid. The climax. Okay, so we're finally at the climax of the game. We kicked Bowser Jr.'s ass and retrieved Spawny, thanks to Yoshi, and immediately lost him after 2 escort missions, which is fun, I guess. Spawny was taken by the physical embodiment of the Mega Bug, a dragon. After a little bit of bickering between Beepo and Bowser Jr., it is decided that they need to shut the fuck up and just beat that thing's ass. But then it takes control of Bowser? What the fuck? I thought Bowser was supposed to be this big bad final boss, not some little shit that gets taken control over so easily. Wait, what am I saying? Bowser usually gets taken control of by shit. So the Mega Dragon Bowser is the name of this final boss, and honestly, he's pretty easy by himself, which is a disappointment. The fight is only hard because of all the enemies that spawn midway through. But as I said with the Phantom, when you mess with Mario, you're messing with the wrong guy. Thus, the Mario crew and the Rabbids force the Mega Bug Dragon out of Bowser and defeat it, retrieving Spawny once more and putting a close to the adventure, in which I assume the Mushroom Kingdom just deals with the fact that they have raving Rabbids running around. All in all, this game's pretty good, and also pretty underrated if I do say so myself. I know that myself alone won't be enough to give this game the attention it deserves in this day and age, but I hope that I managed to shed some light on this game. After all, it's a crossover game with guns in it. I mean, come on! I know that the tactical nature of this game and the inclusion of Rabbids can turn off a lot of people, but I think it deserves more of a chance because it's a solid game for the most part. And I can definitely say that I had a blast replaying it. And get this, it even has a DLC campaign that takes place after the events of World 1, where Rabbid Peach gets taken to Donkey Kong Country, and it's up to her, Donkey Kong himself, and a Rabbid Cranky Kong to defeat a new and improved Rabbid Kong. It's pretty good. But yeah, that's all I have to say on Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Make sure to blast the subscribe button!